Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our APPI webinar, Learn How to Apply Precognition, Retrocausality by Doing It. And we started the process yesterday. And what I would like to do is, in a way, review what I really believe is the most important kind of thing about precognition and retrocausality that I hope will get so deeply ingrained in you that it just becomes supernatural, and everything else kind of revolves around that in terms of the precognition work you do, both with ARV, and eventually this does spread to other things in your life. This graphic, which basically summarizes the approach with remote viewing, and the key thing, which is precognition begins during the feedback session. The entanglement is with the remote viewing session. The information is shared there. If you think about this as time, you do the remote viewing, you do your judging, the analysis judging session. The game is in here where you get your outcome, and here's the feedback session. You have a life between these two things. That's terrific. The amount of images and stuff you see during these two things, that's terrific. In terms of ARV, what matters is connecting up the remote viewing session with the precognition or retrocausality and your feedback session. Those two, period. I mean, it's really very simple in principle, and it, after a while, actually gets simpler and simpler to simply just do it. Setting intention is a key part of this. Setting your intention to do this entanglement, to do this connection, and your cue, describe and sketch whatever your specific feedback target is, and then, of course, you set that same intention at feedback to do that entanglement, but now you have this added edge of connecting it up also in the future and intending to improve, because you're going to be learning during your feedback session. But here's where you see the truth, and the truth is truly, while I often say it is out there, it is internal. All of the information is coming from, sometimes I call it the universal collective consciousness, others might call it a higher self, but it's coming from someplace through your submerged consciousness, your subconscious, into your conscious mind. Now, that's what to remember. Your target is the feedback photosite. That's your target. The other, and this is the second slide, yes, they had multiple parts to them, but the second thing is with intention, which is very important, expectation to create and to know at remote viewing time, and to get this feeling that you're going to create a good RV transcript. Turns out to be very important. So this expectation feeling is very important. The intention is sort of looking forward. Expectation, in a way, is you expect it to happen. It's like it's already done, which in a way is another perspective of what precognition is all about. You know, time, another way of looking at this is this eternal now concept where everything is already out there. And since it's already out there, you simply expect it to happen. The feeling is similar to the sunrise. Hey, it came up this morning. You didn't intend that to happen in any way, but you did expect it to happen, and you expect it to happen tomorrow. It's one of those natural things, and that's kind of the mindset of expectation. Okay. You kind of get that, and if there are any questions about what happened yesterday and what I just sort of summarized, feel free now to turn on your mic or put something into the chat box. Yes, James, that's good. And you don't have to really be a good artist, James. I mean, obviously a judge would like that, but if you get the general shapes as best you can, that's usually good enough, because we try to make the shapes different between the two choices and all that. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'd love, all of us would just love to get good pictures as judges. Okay, so now let's review what happened yesterday in detail, because here we are now the day after, and we're about to do feedback. So the way this happens from our prediction, so here was our prediction, so we're reviewing that, and as you recall, as is normal when we have a lot of people doing things, we get good predictions on both of the photo sites. This was photo site A, this was photo site B, but there were more good ones on this side, and so I made, for the prediction for our little webinar group, this side, which turned out to be yes and over. So we made a prediction under my name over, but this was clearly the webinar group prediction. And I showed you yesterday the line. So when we were over, it turned out in the morning the line was 43, and so we predicted that the total points in the game, the sum of both teams, okay, the Cardinals and the 49ers, would be over 43. Now, just for interest, I want to show you when I went back in around 4 o'clock, it was still 43, but we didn't talk about this, and I think today we have time to do that. The odds changed. This minus 110 at 8 a.m. means that if you wanted to wager on over, which is what we did, and here's the up arrow, shows it's over, but the same was for under, so they were even. If you put up $110, you would win $100. So that's a way of expressing odds. They basically have a $10 fig. And all of this scales. If you put up $11, you would win $10. So you would get your $11 back plus 10. But then in the afternoon, the way they protect themselves is they change the odds. And the odds changed to minus 105, which meant, and I actually put in a trade, meant if you wanted to win 100, you'd have to put up 105. So that's what the minus meant. But notice the under then went to minus 115. So the odds changed, and this actually became, I guess maybe what you would call the underdog. This was the favorite. More people were wagering on this, so they made it a bit more expensive, if you will. Okay, now the next thing, I just want to show you the over. This is just a quick, again, I'm trying to educate you a little bit more about the details. This comes from our server, and when I put in the confidence rankings, remember we put in a 5 and a 4, that goes into the server. I think you'll remember I put in a slight statement. This was day 1 of the webinar, and photo site A had 3 CR equal 5s, and that's shown there, and the other is the 4. then the most interesting thing is, having done all that, so that's what we did yesterday, that was the prediction, I actually wagered. And I want to thank you because I thought I put a copy of, looks like I didn't put a copy of it, but I wagered and made a few bucks, so I thank you for that. Now, the prediction email was set out here, and you can see, and the point I want you to understand here, and I made it yesterday, and I do think it's important, is that we have these groups. It's a good way of organizing us. We get to talk to each other about the games if we want, you know, through the chatting and that sort of thing. Also, I have always felt and still feel that a group ought to be able to do better than the individuals. But as I said, I haven't mastered that yet. But so here, the group prediction went out as a pass. Oh, okay, here's where I put the betting slip. Nevertheless, as an individual, based on your predictions, I put in what's called a straight bet. I put in $45, and that gets to what's called wagering wisely, and we'll do other webinars in the future which focus more on that. But I now put in roughly 10% of what my account is, and that causes it to grow exponentially, and I go anyway, so that's roughly what I did. But this shows the fact that there was a very nice win yesterday. Okay, so those of you who are in CARV saw this, saw the prediction yesterday. If any of you are not in the CARV group and want to be, you be sure to let me know. You know my email address. You simply ask and you'll become part of the group. Okay, so there's my thank you. Fair enough. So we've now reviewed, we won, and in many ways, let me say, I have the feeling, having done this enough, that in a real sense, the feedback session, when you're at this stage, when you know the outcome, you know, some people watch the game and they saw that it went over 43 points, I think it was 54 or something like that, but it went over the 43 points. They know already, since they knew whether they predicted over or under, they already have one element of the feedback, namely the score, and that's feedback. I mean, we have to be realistic. It's not what I think is the most important feedback yet, but in a way, it's the beginning of the feedback process. If they got it right, they're going to start having some good emotions, and that's terrific. Encourage that, feel really good. If they're wrong, they're probably going to have some negative emotions. Hey, we're human beings. That's fine. Acknowledge it. But the real feedback target comes from the email, which is sent by the group manager. So let's go to that email. Okay, so I organize my email by groups. So those of you, again, who are in the CARV group got this email yesterday, and it indicates right here, again, what the event was, and it gives the score. Even though it was a group pass, the total runs were 54, which was well over the 43, so indeed we were over, and it was side one, which was the first coordinate. And again, I wrote this. I wrote both of these lines. You're, as the group manager, so everybody sees this, your personal prediction and all-important feedback session are key to your personal precog improvement, whether you had a hit, miss, or pass. So that's what we're going to start talking about in detail. But here is now where you simply click. Remember, this is all online. That'd be interesting. What was that? Okay, that wasn't very pretty. Let's see what happened here. Oh, there it is. My other stuff came up. So you click on that, and then this is the page. This is the next page that comes up after you click on that link. Notice it says Carve. Now, everybody in the Carve group will get this same page, right? It's got the game, it's got the date of the event, but the way they distinguish themselves is by simply putting in their email address, okay? And I use that email address, so now I click here for feedback. Voila! So there's the coordinate, and there's the feedback, and the process now is you do a feedback session, you put in comments, and again, these comments are, at this stage, mostly for you. You will be able to get, well, in fact, we'll see that. You'll be able to see all of these comments. So it's part of the learning capability of an online approach here. Let me turn this off. Is that you get to talk to yourself and remember how you were feeling when you did this one, and after you get a series of these, this could become very helpful. Okay, and then you click submit, and you would be done with this feedback session. So let's make this big. Now, there it is. I am sure some of you are feeling your different emotions because some of you got nice hits, some of you got nice, I say nice misses, that sort of came out, but in a way it's true because there is often more to learn from misses than hits. There's stuff to learn from hits as well as passes, but by reviewing what has happened, with your whole process, and maybe you didn't do something strong enough, maybe you didn't judge it right, there is usually something important to learn from the misses. Maybe you should have, who knows what it is, and I can't tell you. When we get to this point, I mean, and I want to look at your sessions to try to give advice, but I have to tell you, we're now at the stage where this becomes very personal to you. You know, it was your process at remote viewing time. You did the self-judging. It was your process at the self-judging time. And it's just important to take kind of full responsibility for the whole process, and this is where you do it, at the feedback session. Now, I think I said this here. Let's just go back here for a minute, because what I'm going to want you to do is, first of all, let's just realize, again, what I said. This is the time. You're about to get into the ARV feedback session, the real key part of this. This is the ideal time to learn about your communication channel, the channel which somehow connects information from your feedback session earlier in linear time to your remote viewing session. Okay, this is when it happens. This is where you know the truth. And so this is this communication channel that is key to precognition, that connects your conscious mind, what's with you in the here and now, and this submerged consciousness, which somehow is connected to something like a universe of collective consciousness, where the information is just out there all the time. So it's a very important thing to learn about. And what better time and what better way, frankly, to do it than when you know the truth. So what I'd like you to do now is your ARV feedback session. Now I'm going to give you some examples, and you might do these, you might do others. I mean, one thing which, if you remember, I asked you to say the coordinate out loud. I'm about to go back. In fact, let's do it. Let's go back to here. Okay. So have your transcript in front of you and say that coordinate out loud. Remember, it vibrated you. It was your vibration, your unique sound, and it also vibrates through your body. It's not like memorizing it. It's the sound of it. It's the sensation of it. It's a very physical kind of thing. So go ahead, say it, 794, 594, just like you did at your remote viewing session. This is a kind of entanglement between the two. Now, you have your transcript in front of you. Why don't you, on your transcript, now some people do this on a separate sheet of paper because they want to keep their transcript kind of intact the way it was. And everybody comes up with their own style of doing this. But I'll ask you, for this webinar, circle the good stuff. You know, feel good about it. If you really got a hit, you know, you should be cheering now. Just really feel good. If you got a miss or pass, still, there's stuff in your transcript that you say, well, you know, that really was a match. Circle it. Feel good about that. The fact that you did get that part as a match. So go ahead, do that now. Be creative. There are other kinds of things that you can come up with which all will do the entanglement. Feel good about being in this wonderful process. Here you are in a place where you're doing something which is so cutting edge to consciousness that most people don't even believe it's possible. And yet here it is, you know, you've done it, you're doing it. Really feel good about that. One other suggestion. Somewhere on that page, and again, a lot of people do this on a separate page, but for this one, do it on this page. And some people actually will use different colors. You might put a very quick sketch of what you wish you had done. You know, not like a tracing, but whatever your level of sketching is, do a quick one, nothing real fast. What you're doing is trying to get more entanglement. You're telling your sub, gee, I wish I had drawn, here I can do with my mouse, I wish I had just drawn, you know, a few circles. Boy, a few circles, that would have been enough to tell everything about this picture at remote viewing time. It would have been real easy to judge. And maybe you wish you had said white light. Whatever it is that you wish you would have said, that's not a bad thing to do at the feedback time as well. So right now you're doing your all-important feedback session. It's a real session. You're writing stuff down either on your transcript, you know, other times you might do it on a separate sheet of paper. I suggest tracing over the 794, 594 that you did at the top of the page. If you do it on this transcript, when you do it on a new sheet of paper, put the coordinate right on the top, say feedback session 794, 594. It should be obvious now what you're doing. You're increasing the entanglement with your remote viewing session. In a way, this is very closely related to what Lynn Buchanan, who was one of the original remote viewing players, and then he started a teaching. He's been teaching this now ever since he got out of the remote viewing group, Army, military group. He calls it remote influencing. You can think of this as you are remotely influencing your earlier remote viewing session. So there are lots of different ways of talking about this. Remote influencing, entanglement, lighting up the feedback target. That's what you've done.
Marty, can I add something to that?
Sure.
Yeah, I have, my process is very similar to everything you just described, but I also do one extra thing. When I rewrite the coordinate number, I sort of do another ideogram, but this time on purpose. I draw an ideogram like I would like to see in the next session if this same sort of structure came up. So I'll do the coordinate number and then do the ideogram, not like the automatic writing one, but very purposeful, sort of trying to train my subconscious that ideogram language that I want to see in the future. That seems to help a little bit too.
Okay, let me comment on that. Not everybody here has taken a CRV-like course, so they don't know what an ideogram is. But let me explain what it is. Many people who have gone through the more formal trainings of remote viewing, where they really want to get into multi-page and get more detail, they will begin their session by writing the coordinate. You know, they'll put the name on the top like we did, and even the number at the top sometimes. But then when they start their session, they will write 794594 and say it out loud, and then automatically and rather quickly, taking no more than a couple of seconds, do what is called an ideogram. It's like a doodle, but it gets the process going. And since your intention is to describe and sketch your feedback target, the ideogram in some sense contains all the information. Kind of in theory, they'll go back and touch it and do all kinds of things about it. Now certain things like a wiggly shape, like a rectangular shape, have meanings for ideograms. A rectangle shape, guess what? That's a structure. A striggly shape might very well be water. And people who do this kind of build up a language. So that's what John was talking about. But I frankly think the most important thing he said was he works it again to get better at it. And this is the time to do that. I'll also say some people, instead of doing ideograms, do pictograms, which is a quick sketch, but that's a little bit closer to what I was saying, do something quickly. But a pictogram would be real quick. All they do is maybe 2 or 3 circles. That would be like a pictogram. So these are kind of techniques that you can use at feedback time to enhance this entanglement, to enhance the influencing back on your remote viewing session. Other comments, suggestions? Anybody else came up with another novel way of doing it? Please share that. Okay, now what I would like you to do so we can discuss this is email me. You know, we really did that, and that worked out pretty well last time, and I think some of the best use of our time here today will be to look at what you've done, to discuss it in the context of your remote viewing sessions. So we can go over some of those that really look good, you know, those are the fun ones. But here I think I'd like to look at the ones that didn't do so well, because guess what? All of us, nobody is 100%. People are going to get misses. How you deal with that is probably the most challenging part of ARV, and finding ways to turn that into, you know, almost a fun exercise. Oh, look what I did there, and becoming very conscious of all that is really very valuable. So having said that, those of you that feel comfortable in doing that, why don't you email me your feedback page, and I think we'll discuss it. I think that'll be a very useful thing to do right now. So what I'm going to do is put this over here. And then I ought to be able to get my email here. Okay, I like that. That's something which Edge does very nicely. Let me split the screen. And then, what's that one? Post on the app. I don't know what that is. I'll take care of that later. Okay, so go ahead and let's send some here. You guys are going to know way too much about me by seeing my emails and stuff like that. But you know what? I've learned not to care, and you want to know why? You know anyway. Your subconscious is so powerful. I am a great believer in it, pretty much knowing everything. Hey, it can know the future. Okay. Okay, some of you are sending, I presume. Here I'm getting something. Oh. Okay, now it looks like I'm receiving. Okay, Julie, okay, you're a good one, because I remember you were one of those that got a good score on the other side, right? So turn on your mic and let's talk. You're perfect to start with, because this also opens up the whole issue of displacement and all the rest. Okay, so I can see I'm getting a lot, but let's start with you. Okay. I can close that.
Julie said her mic isn't working.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Well, you can chat. Yes, this is just what I'm looking for. Now let's talk about this first. Let me put this in context as I remember it. You had I can't remember what you had. I guess I can look it up, but you can remind us what you had for A, but I remember you had a 5 for B. Isn't that correct? And so you had a miss. Okay, there you go. So first, let me just start by saying when someone gives them a big miss, that's right. When someone gives themselves a 5 and they really feel it's a legitimate 5, that is what I call displacement, because they gave a very good description of the wrong target. Now, what makes displacement so interesting, the most easy answer to displacement is, hey, Julie saw the other picture. Okay, I'm not even going to want to think about it. She doesn't even want to think about it. You don't want to put a whole lot of energy into the other picture, except in a situation like this. And that's because we first want to review whether or not we felt she judged it right. Was it a legitimate 5? And I recall we looked at this one. Let me see. Yeah, I wish you had done different colors, but I didn't ask you to do that. But there, I'm remembering wet. I'm remembering sandy, sky blue. Yeah, I think John and I, John, who's quite experienced at this as well, and myself, both felt that that was a legitimate 5. So Julie did displacement. What's so interesting about this is many years ago, when all we used to do was independent judging, which was what was totally recommended back then. In fact, the idea of self-judging wasn't even around. We saw displacement. Now you have to get this. What that meant was the viewer, like Julie, would have turned her transcript over to an independent judge, and only the independent judge would see the 2 pictures. And yet, that judge, just like Julie did here, would choose the wrong potential target. When feedback came, both Julie and the judge would know this was the correct one, but Julie would only see this one. Julie never saw the other picture. That direct channel, or what you would have assumed could be a channel, that direct channel was never there. So, with an independent judge, this concept of displacement was really born in ARV, because you would get very good descriptions of targets that the viewer never saw, never. Now what that made clear to most of us, including me, was that the subconscious has access to everything. The subconscious happens to also be curious, and the remote viewer, for whatever reason, decided to peek at the other target, which was out there. I mean, the judge put it in this universe of collective consciousness. I mean, it's out there. Turns out the viewer put it out in the future. The remote viewer actually did the viewing before the independent judging. So again, it's precognition. For a while, I used to actually tell viewers about it, that they did displacement, but all that did was encourage them. Hey, I'm really good. And again, you don't want to get into that. But it was after we all began to realize that the viewers would peak anyway with independent judging that self-judging was kind of born. And it works quite well, thank you. And yes, we get displacement. So Julie, you are an example of that. Let's look here though. In fact, I do remember, even though you gave yourself a 1, we did see these circles, and you cross those, and those X, I guess those checks are yours. Did you add this? This is what you wish you had done. Right, I'm assuming that. Yep. So that was a good thing to do for feedback. Now, is this a second writing of your coordinate, or did you do it twice originally? It's a second writing. Okay. Now, when you did your session, I would suggest, now this is just a suggestion for you, to limit your getting displacements. And that would be write it more than once, write it slowly, trace it, say it out loud, all at the same kind of time, right before you get into your main session. Really emphasize it. And then when you come back here, trace it over. You know, you did it once. I can see you're a gentle person. Don't be gentle about this. Be aggressive. Be very physical. One of the things, I remember Hal Puthoff told me this many, many years ago. This is kinesthetic. I actually had to look up that word. I sort of knew what it meant by the sound of it, but I actually had to look it up. But it's through the body. You know, all your senses are through the body. And it's a kinesthetic process. Your consciousness comes to you through all of your senses. Now it's the non-physical that communicates, but the communication is through the body. And so it goes the other way. You want to communicate to your subconscious, do it kinesthetically. So be aggressive about this. So that would be my suggestion to you. Hey, maybe that's why you displace, so you'd be a good lesson for all of us. Yeah, you also had Sandy. You had Sky, now that I'm thinking about it. Am I remember the other one? Yeah. What you should be, that was in the geometry. Oh no, that was the one you got. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's all you can do. You do look at it. Yes, you judge it right, and you say, okay, I'm psychic, subconscious. Okay, hey, I know it. That is really cool. But now why don't you show the psychic ability on the correct one? That would make us, certainly make me, my conscious mind happier, but wouldn't it make you happier too? So why don't you do that next time? And you know, and I'm saying this verbally to you, but what you really can do during this feedback session is get quiet, do another equivalent of a cool down, and have that discussion with your subconscious. And you know what? Your subconscious might very well respond in some way. You know, get quiet and listen. But if not, just know that it's hearing you. Does that make sense? Yes, and practice certainly is valuable. Okay, good. So let's see who else sent in a transcript. Okay. Okay, so there's Julie, but it looks like yours came in first. So let's look at yours. John. Okay, so okay, let me put this over here. Okay, so go ahead, John. Tell us. You had a 5 on the correct side. Did you whoop it up?
No. Actually, yesterday I told you I would have passed, but I scored it accurately for the webinar, but for a group I would have passed because of the other target. And I can explain that later, but this is just my feedback drawing. So
you did just your feedback session. Okay, on a separate sheet of paper. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
So yeah, so this is just my feedback, and as you can see, I wrote the coordinates again at the top, and the that little L shape is my ideogram that I would like to see next time. That's either
very good.
Either a structure or man-made. As you can see, it's an angle, and it's something that you can draw real fast. So that's why it works fairly well as an ideogram for a man-made object. And so I would decode that as something man-made and then go from there in my next session. And then the drawing is sort of my best that's probably the idea. I could have sort of freehand traced what that chandelier would be like, but realistically, this is kind of what I would get in an RV session, like circles and some vertical lines, and then there's some cross members in there.
And let me say, I am 100% supportive of that. Rather than doing more of what your normal RV would be, by doing just what you said, at whatever level of drawing you're typically at, doing that is a better way to communicate with your sub. You're not trying to tell your sub, I want to get better at drawing. You're trying to tell your sub, hey, why didn't you draw this?
It's kind of funny, actually. James put this in his chat earlier, that drawing practice. I actually do some things on the side that make my remote viewing better, such as practice drawing and some other training things, listing descriptive words of things while I'm looking at them. But
well, that's terrific. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, for the purpose of this is how I would probably get the data. So I just replicated it, and then I wrote down in the feedback summary something in particular that I would like to have gotten, because I got some of the lines in my session, but I did not get illumination, and that seems to be one of the obvious things that I missed. So I'd like to have seen that. And then up in the top left, I sort of write descriptive words while I'm looking at it that were appropriate, and then that's basically, in my mind, it's designed to be retrocausal. So hopefully I would send that information back to myself yesterday.
That's beautiful, John. No, that's beautiful. I mean, that's a perfect example of the kind of thing that we could do. And if other people who are newbies at this pick that up, that'd be great.
There's one other thing that has to do with judging, and I said I would have in a group use this as a pass, and that's because the other target was more numinous to me. It was the boat and the water and blue water and all that. And I actually love water targets, and so if I see a water target next to something that, like, this chandelier is boring to me compared to that boat, and my session was geared more towards the boat, so that's why I would have passed, simply because I automatically know that my mind thinks that boat is more numinous, and so even though my session did indicate the other side, that's why I would have passed, even regardless. So.
Okay, wait. I want to comment on that, because there are a lot of important points that you touched on there.
I'm number 2 up there, 4 and 2.
Oh, there you are. Okay, so you did honestly judge it, and that's one point I want to make. If there is a part of you, and this is where, remember I said it's mostly intellectual, but there is this intuitive part. What John said about believing, and I'm going to have a lot more to say on believing, John, believing that he's drawn to the more numinous target. In fact, that he believes it, in fact he is, as this example shows, he would have known that, and so he would have actually passed if he was doing this personally. He didn't do it because of here. And the way he could have done that was, even though it was honestly intellectually a 4, he could have made it a 3, in which case it isn't over the 3.5 level. And next time, John, that is exactly what you should do when you get this feeling. Okay? And now, as a prelim to this belief point, let me just say that beliefs are a very important part of what's going on here. Becoming aware of them is very important. And knowing that you can work those beliefs, I believe, is an important tool that you can use to improve yourself. For example, John believes, and he has every reason to believe it because luminaries like Stephen Schwartz have made the point over and over and over again that we see more numinous targets. Numinous means a lot of people have viewed them, they're more interesting to you, stuff like that, the kind of thing that would maybe automatically grab your attention, that your subconscious would tend to go to that more than the other target. And so that's an easy belief to say, sure, I believe that. Well, I believe that it doesn't have to be that way. I believe you can train yourself to treat all targets the same. I believe that you can describe any feedback target, even if they're boring. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, I didn't get that because it's boring. Okay, and fine, but that's because of your belief system. There's nothing intrinsic in a target that makes it boring. You can, during your feedback session, turn anything into being interesting. I mean, I once had just a beautiful rose, and someone said, oh yeah, but there's nothing there. I did a whole session and all it was a rose. Well, hell, you can get a lot of interesting things on a rose. But it's during your feedback session that you could make it numinous. So so you see what I'm saying, John, whether you accept it or not, believe it or not, even want to do it or not, doesn't, but that's another point of view which I want to share here.
I have a couple comments. I don't necessarily disagree with what you said at all. When I say boring, I don't mean to. It's just the best word that I have for it. I don't actually mean it's a bad target, or I just am using boring as the opposite of numinous. That's just the word that I use. But yeah. I have to say, my feeling on that comes from experience more than a belief system, and it's possible that my observation after a period did turn into a belief system, but I feel like it started, this belief, as you would call it, probably started from multiple observations of this characteristic. And I also do agree with you. You could probably train it away with more experience, and maybe if you have a different way of thinking about it, you would be less prone to that. But for now, this is just where I'm at with my experience, and knowing that is sort of useful for me to affect how I judge it. Like in this case, for the webinar, I judged it by the numbers correctly, but I would have manipulated it as for the group so that it would have been a pass, because I just know at this point in my ability that I'm prone to see the other target. And I also see Julie made the same comment in the chat box that the boat would be appealing to her. I don't want to color you guys' belief systems. Marty's right. We can train this away, but knowing what your personal preferences are can help you in judging. So.
Okay. Look, I understand everything you said, and I want to re-emphasize one thing you said. Wherever you are is what you need to know about yourself, and then you use that. So the fact that you know that you're drawn to that kind of target more than the other, that's where you are now. That's what you use now in terms of making the judgments, just as you did. I mean, that was 100% the right way to go. One additional suggestion which popped into my mind for both you and Julie during the feedback session, and you can even add it now, is to go to that chandelier and make it really numinous in every sense that that word means to you. In other words, God, chandeliers are terrific. They're some of the most artistic pieces of work around. You can find some chandeliers that are just magnificent. This particular chandelier is not so bad. I mean, that's pretty impressive. What I'm trying to say is tell your sub, and it's not going to change anything about this one, but you're setting up a style that you're going to make, if this situation comes up again at feedback time, you're going to make the actual target really numinous so that at judging time, this won't be an issue. So that's a way of working on it to improve it.
I totally agree with that. I think that's exactly the process that I'm trying to do. Exactly.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And that's the whole point. I don't know how, because I certainly didn't get into ARV for this reason, but somehow the ARV process is really deep. And if you use it in just the way we're talking about, it just deepens you, dare I say, in a spiritual fashion. Because what we're talking about here is getting involved with the non-physical part of you, the spirit part of you. Okay, let me go and thank you. That was really, really good. Okay, so we've done John, Julie. Let's do Glenn. Okay, oh, there it goes. I just had to be patient, which is not one of my virtues. I can make that a little bigger. Okay, turn on your mic, Glenn. Oh, no mic. Okay, we'll use the same chat approach. In fact, I'll move my chat box. Can you guys see my chat box or not? Go to meeting limits what you see. Can you see it?
What are you referring to?
You can't see it then. I moved over my chat box from my other screen to the center just so it would be close here.
Oh, no, we can't see it.
No.
Okay, so that's good. Okay, Glenn, remind us what confidence rankings you gave, first of all, so we can put this in context. A 2 and a 3. Okay, so you passed, and this looks like it is a separate sheet as opposed to going over your original transcript. Is that true? Okay. Now, did you go through the process on your original transcript where you found some stuff that did in fact match the chandelier? Perhaps you couldn't find your transcript, or, I have a problem always seeing the first. Image. I'm sorry. God, I sure wish.
Does he mean the first photo site, or you might have meant that he's transcribing the first photo site?
Okay, sure.
Hello, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Great.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, what happens is here is I think I have always a problem seeing, I always see the first image when I do the transcript. Even if I have two, I always see the first target. I don't know why. So when I saw the second in this one instant, I was so happy.
Oh, I see.
So in this one instance, there's a couple of things I noticed even from just listening to John. Like I saw a hang glider, and I think it was, I was trying to just I saw circles and I just put in the frame, but I saw more. I think my intention was really to see the second image. I wanted to see the second image more than I wanted to see the first.
Oh, because that's sort of what you were trying to work on here, because
yeah, because I've always seen the first image.
First. Okay,
So
so now you believe that about your sub, so when you think it's, that probably randomly happened the first two times, and again, I do think this is something in your belief system, and it's not deep, and I think you can just work around it. This happened to be the first one this time, and that's okay. And I think you just be telling yourself that feedback time, oh, that's cool that it was the first one, but it doesn't have to be.
this is the first time I've done a feedback on the feedback image. I know it sounds a bit odd. I've always just missed this kind of step. I've never gone through it. I like what John said, to actually say write it all out and go through it like it was exactly how you are. And I was trying the smelling technique that he said, so I've been trying to smell the smells at the same time that I've been trying to.
Okay. Well, and I can see that, and this is great. You wrote it down several times, you traced it. Hopefully you said it out loud like you did at the remote viewing time. All of these kind of tricks, and okay, so you did a great one. And the fact you haven't done it before.
I've never done the feedback ever. This is the first time I've actually looked at the image. And then
well, this is your first. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's quite odd because I'm trying to do, it's really odd when you said check on the feedback to try, and I didn't quite understand how you meant to associate it with it, but now I get it.
So this is actually your first ARV completed prediction.
Yes, exactly.
Congratulations.
So I'm really happy, although I've passed.
Well, okay, but hey, that's terrific. That just makes me feel really good because you now got it, and you did your first one all the way through, and I'm looking forward to getting more. You're in the Carve group?
I might have, I'll talk to you afterwards on that. I might have some email issues on either I'm blocking them, or sometimes I get them, sometimes I don't. So it's my end, I think, not yours.
Okay. We'll if you're not getting them, once or twice emails a week, you get to me and we'll work it out, or you can figure it out.
Yep.
Okay, that's excellent. Okay, perfect. We'll go to the next one, huh?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what that, I think my chat is there. Okay, so James, let's take a look at yours. Okay, so yours was all words, right? Do you have a mic? Getting used to using the chat. Okay, let's just see what he said. I didn't draw the liquid part well, but saw the top of a freshly opened champagne bottle in the room with a chandelier. And I need to work on drawing better and description vocabulary. Okay, James, in terms of what you wrote, that's great. The real issue here at feedback time is to do something to teach your communication channel, both ends of it, the conscious part and the subconscious part, how to do better next time. And so in things like you want to do better on description vocabulary, right now, do it. I'm assuming you're still with us. Let me just see. There you are, James. Go ahead. Put some words right now. Put some words right now into the chat box that you would use, and maybe we'll give you suggestions later, but right now you just put some words in the chat box that are relevant to this chandelier picture. You're now looking at the truth. What kind of words would be really good for describing that? Oh, so you can't, you don't have a chat Well, yeah, you just chatted. So add some word. I really want you to do this because I'm telling you, even doing it now will help a little bit, and you've got to get into the habit of doing that, whether you write it on your original transcript or as we just saw two people do, they do it on a separate sheet of paper. Right now on your Kindle in this chat box, you give me some words which you think are relevant to this chandelier target. Okay, how about one word? Give me words. You know, words are concepts. Give me it's like the gestalt, the big picture stuff of this picture. Give me one word that kind of summarizes this picture. Yeah, but I still really want you to kind of get what I really recommend that you do during feedback time. If there was one word that would, you know, at the big picture level describe that, what word would you think of right away? And not chandelier, not that level. I'm talking about something at the more fundamental level. Like it's geometry. Okay, and that word is something like circle. Write circle in your chat box. I really want you to write it. Yeah, circles, perfect. And in terms of a little sketch that you could draw, you would just draw circles. Had in your transcript at remote viewing time, had the word circles on it with the S. That's perfect. That's even better than circle, which is what I said. Circles is better because it says multiple. See, that's another word that in a gestalt sense some people you might come up with. God, there are multiples around of the same thing, or circles, or something like man-made. See, those are the kind of gestalts that your subconscious could understand. So you write that down, man-made, circles. The communication channel seems to be very open to this big picture kinds of stuff, the very fundamental kinds of things which the universe, you know, is made of, basic geometry things. Again, man-made is another one. Go ahead, anybody else that have other big picture ones that go here? Yeah, man-made, illuminated, circles, vertical lines. That's right, right. But at the level, just like John just put in there, at feedback time, you know, you were saying you wanted to develop a description lab vocabulary. This is the way to do it. Every time you get your feedback, you've got a perfect example to work on. Period. And so you're working on it as you're telling your subconscious, hey, this is the way we're going to communicate. I'm expanding my communication channel, and these are the kind of words I want. And historically, they are these general words, the ones that are most fundamental, gestalt-like, big picture-like. Those are the words. Okay, terrific, terrific. And then also do the physical drawing of whatever level your drawing skill is that you use for remote viewing, but certainly multiple circles would have been enough here. And yeah, some up and down straight lines. Or horizontal. Orientation doesn't always matter.
Can I add to that, Marty?
Yep.
Yeah, you're totally right. This is the perfect time to kind of gather your descriptive words, but also um, if I have a list of descriptive words that I use for training, just try and memorize a whole bunch of descriptive words for all the categories that you might find for an object: color, tastes, smells, size, dimensions, and a lot of times before my RV session, I'll review those descriptive words so they're fresh in my mind and available to use. And then when I'm not doing an RV session, I use it for training. Just read through it, and I have a whole list of words that I read through, and then I'll try and imagine an object that fits that description. And after a while, your vocabulary will increase, and you'll have more words available for your session. But it's really important during feedback to list as many as you can. You know, it'll pay off over time.
Absolutely. Do you separate that list into gestalt-like words versus more detailed kind of words?
It is, yeah. It is separated by all of those categories. Yeah, it's a category, and then a whole bunch of words that fit into that category, and then the next category, and then next, and then next. Yeah.
That's terrific. Would you share that? Why don't you share it with the CARV group? I don't think, I think everybody here is in the CARV group, or will be. I don't know any way to just share it with these people.
I'll see if I can find it. In fact, I might be able to find a link to one, and I can post it in the chat box.
Oh, well, that would be terrific. Yeah, if you put it online, that'd be terrific. Okay. Let's go to Matthew. Blanking. Oh, that's terrific.
So I had some training a few years ago, level 1 through 3, through the Lynn Buchanan line of thought.
Uh-huh. Okay,
So,
good.
but I'm all rusty at it, so anything that was an image that was coming in really sharp, I was like, well, that's probably an AOL, so I was putting that over on the right.
Correct. That's standard, and that's a good thing for people to do in general, because what it says, to those of you who don't know, AOL is analytical overlay, and that means you think the information is coming more from the intellect than the subconscious. And usually that's big picture words, but sometimes it's just like a feeling. Here, perfect example, he got green and cool, and then his mind jumped in and said grass. And he recognized that, so he put it over here. Perfect example. Thanks. They call you Matt or Matthew?
Matt, usually. Matthew's for when I'm in trouble.
Okay, Matt.
So this is actually, I don't have a lot to add that John didn't say earlier. This is the first time it even occurred to me that I could go back and, once I saw the feedback, do the session again to really deepen and enhance it. I love that idea. So I did my session yesterday in black ink, and then I was doing it in the feedback to what would I really like to get out of it in green. Similar to what he said yesterday. I saw the picture of the chandelier and just emotionally didn't have much reaction to it. It's, oh, that's dusty, that's boring. Whereas when I looked at that ship, I'm like, oh, that's the ocean. I'd love to be there right now, so that was more emotionally interesting. But then I'm also hearing what you said and like, well, now you've got the feedback, find something interesting and do the session again.
Okay, that is terrific, and there's another really important point that you made there that concerns judging. When you do your judging, notice you stay intellectual as much as possible. Keep the emotions out of it for just the reason that you said. Notice you said you're more emotionally attached to it. Work on not doing that during the judging. And when you notice it, you say, that's interesting. Let's be more intellectual. Because emotions are another way you light up targets.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that. So, even though obviously you didn't consciously intend to entangle with your AJ session, your judging session, if you get emotionally involved with one of the pictures at that time, and it may not even be a numinous one in general, but to you, if it's important in some way, you get emotionally attached to it in some way, or just as you said, gee, that water looks appealing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you can just see how that might, at the subconscious level, make more of an entanglement with your remote viewing session a bit earlier.
Okay.
So really do try to stay intellectual, and yeah, there's a bit of try to keep emotion out of it as much as possible.
Okay.
And you won't be completely successful, and be conscious of that, because the very being conscious of it, since we're talking about it and you understand it this way, tends to mitigate it. Okay, perfect though. I mean, yeah, I see what you did. Now, you wrote round, of course. You wrote
Right.
sky. Why did you
Right.
write
So
sky?
as I was doing the feedback session, I was like, okay, trying to think, well, what kind of words would have just whatever popped into my mind as I looked at the chandelier? What would I have? Trying to imagine what would I have written down if I were hitting that target?
Yeah.
Sky probably isn't a very good one because the boat had lots of sky as well.
Well, but nevertheless, let me just tell you, you did it right. In retrospect, sky might not be best, and now that you've seen that this time, but nevertheless, you did it just right, because you kind of did what would have come up as you looked at that, and who knows, I'm looking at that now and I can see it looks like it's up high and there's sky above it. I mean, no, I get that, and who knows, maybe when you were judging you would have even given a little credit to that as a judge.
Okay.
But no, I wouldn't second guess at that point. What you said is just right. What words would have come to mind when I look at that at the big picture level? So that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, very good. Anything else? Any other?
Yeah, I was going to comment on that sky thing myself. The emotions can be very helpful during your session, but you got to be careful during feedback, because it can cause displacement if you get excited about the wrong thing.
During judging?
Yeah.
Wait, you meant judging? Yeah. Okay.
Also, I found a link that I put in the chat box. You might it'd be cool to look at it real quick if you want.
Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, let me open it up.
Page 1 is the descriptive words, and page 2 are some very interesting things to do during session, like movement exercises. And this is only one of the sheets that I use. I have about three descriptive word lists.
Yeah, this is cool. So you put all of this together from the various classes. Oh, this comes from Daz.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is, one thing which is really great about our community is we are very open about sharing. Okay. Okay, well there it is. You can all open it like I just did and save it wherever you would like. I think I can save this. Yeah, it's a PDF.
This is an example. It actually works better psychologically if you take those categories and write your own words, something that you would use in your own vocabulary, because those are more prone to come up in a session, just to make it a little bit easier on you. But you can also sort of memorize those.
Well, and every time you read it, it is more likely to come up even if you haven't memorized it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess my point is the more you personalize these things, the better they seem to work.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to Matthew. Oh no, we just did Matthew, sorry. Crystal. Oh, I don't know, you hear Crystal? No. Meet up, Marty. Okay, so I think I got everybody who did decided to set it up. But that was really good. I mean, that went over, I really do believe, the important points concerning feedback. And this is the ideal time to learn about your communication channel, to learn about your deeper self, and use it that way. And yes, for your precognition, for your ARVing, but it's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. Okay. Well, let me go on. What I was going to say is the reality of us being human beings is there are going to be times when you're just not going to do these really full feedback sessions. What I ask of you is at least notice that. Take note of it. Because it's all about consciousness and being conscious. And if you note it and you say, oh, I'm recognizing now that I was too rushed and I didn't really do it, the very act of noticing it actually helps the whole process. Okay, so I mean, that's just a hint which I found to be very useful. Just becoming more and more conscious about everything related to this helps the whole process. Now that's a second choice. The first choice, which will further you much faster, which is much better, is to always make time to do a full feedback session. And now they don't really take that long. For me, I typically do a feedback session in less than 10 minutes. How long does it take for you, John?
Yeah, about 10 minutes is about right. I try to, I mean, the more detailed you make it, the better. The more you concentrate on it, the better. So it's sort of like when you do it until you feel like you have saturated yourself in that feedback target, basically. As much
I
as
agree with that. I agree with that, and you're right. Maybe at the beginning it'll take half an hour, but it's worth doing it because all of this is expanding the communication channel. Okay, let's go on here.
yeah, the feedback session is hugely important for learning and becoming better. Yeah.
Now let me go a little further and just give you some other ideas. This coordinate is like a beacon. I'm beginning to use that word more and more because it seems to resonate with people in just the right way. And I think you understand what we've just been doing by writing over it. All of that is designed to connect up the RV and feedback session. So the number itself is like a beacon. And the coordinate, some people call it a transcript reference number. It's got that unique sound. Okay, those are ideas to make this like a beacon so that these are guiding you. The movement, the feel of the paper. We talked about that. I'm happy to see you guys are clearly doing it more and more. And keep doing it. The connection between doing it at the remote viewing and the feedback session. So a regular beacon power. Now, you know, these beacons are things which bring you to a place of safety. I found this one online. There's a Star Wars beacon which guides space travelers from one safe flight speed place to another. And anyway, the idea of beacons is very widespread, but there's another way to use beacons in ARV, and that is to take something like a candy kiss or an apple and maybe just hold it, planning on opening it up and eating it at feedback time. I happen to sometimes open them up and take a bite, knowing I'm going to finish it at feedback time. You could hold an apple. You could take sandpaper. You can use texture. Remember, kinesthetic, you can feel it, knowing you're going to feel it again at feedback time. So this idea of beacons is very, very general. You can use smells. You can write something special. There was one woman who used to put a unique design on her transcript, and then she would start a feedback session with a blank sheet of paper and do that same unique design, again being very kinesthetic. So there are very many creative ways of doing this, and it also tends to keep it more interesting, which is good. Now, there's another word here which I probably used, but it's important, and that's to keep paying attention to everything that's going on. And a beacon at the start, at the end, here's a nice quote I found. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. You're basically being generous to yourself by giving attention to something and making it important enough for your intention. Well, we're trying to expand our communication channel here, and by paying attention to the beacon at remote viewing time and the beacon, whatever it is, at feedback time during those two sessions, that's being generous to yourself. Those three words, I focused mostly on intention and expectation, but now attention. This is something that Joe McMonagle, again, most of you I know have heard of him, but some of you may not. He is probably the best public remote viewer. We don't know about the non-public ones. You know, I'm sure there are a lot of great people out there, but he's done so much in the United States and Japan and Germany, public sessions, more than anybody else I know of. And he works with Ed May, who is one of the key scientists in this area. And what they concluded is, what is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. Okay, very important. They've got a paper out there I can give you a link to if you ask. Another thing which is here, and you can watch how your confidence level is, and again, watching it helps. And you're not going to be 100% confident, especially at the beginning. But actions speak louder than words. Doing stuff, even if you're not confident, is beautiful because it shows you've got the confidence enough to move ahead and a level of confidence that this is going to be great for the longer term. Feel confident and enjoy this whole process you're in. It's just kind of wonderful and mysterious. You're right at the cutting edge of consciousness, really research, what we're all learning about research of ourselves, and the bigger picture research as well. And there's a graphic of extreme confidence. I like that. Do you guys like that? I think it's cool. Oh, okay. Now I want to get into belief systems. We've talked about it a little bit, and you know, the questions like, what do you believe about the power of your subconscious mind. You might call it your higher self, information you get through a guide. You know, it's information coming from a place bigger than you, if you will. People use different words, but the fact that you're here, I think, says that you get it. You get that the information is out there and you can get access to it, and the subconscious mind is a good way of talking about it. Subconscious, submerged. Here's a quote from Anthony Robbins, which I found very interesting and so relevant. What we can or cannot do, what we consider possible or impossible, is rarely a function of our true capability. It is more likely a function of our beliefs about who we are. The Monroe Institute and others have basically said things like the only limits are the limits we put on ourselves. That's the idea, and it is so, so true. And I believe you guys actually do at some level believe that, and yet our belief systems are the things which do give us the limits. They're the things which make us believe some things are impossible. Here are some more relevant quotes, I think, on believing. And positive is obviously more productive, if you will, than negative, right? Okay. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Okay, Teddy Roosevelt. Gandhi. If I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. How's that for being relevant to what we're doing? Dream it, believe it, achieve it. It might be in an ARV context. I can give a good description of any target. Feedback target, you can hear at this point. Okay, dream it, believe it, achieve it. I can achieve and maintain over the long term an 80% hit rate or higher. Okay? I can transfer my communication skills to other aspects of my life. I found that that happens just sort of naturally now. I'm more and more getting precognitive information. You know, some just little stuff, but it's there. I really do know when my wife is going to come home. Hey, dogs can do it. I found I can do it too. I just get a sense of that. Anyway, this whole idea of purposefully working your belief system is something which we generally do not do. Paying attention to your belief system, but getting the sense that you can modify it, that's powerful. And that's something that you can do in our ARV precog context, but that clearly can work for all kinds of other things in your life. Responsibility for beliefs. Who's responsible for your beliefs? Here's a quote again from Teddy. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. And in this business, taking responsibility for all of it, ideally, but certainly as much as you possibly can and then some, is, I believe, where we should each be coming from. Okay. This is something which you'll hear me say all over and over in chat boxes and stuff like that, and I'll just repeat it here, and then we're pretty much done. Learn from your hits, of course. Be happy. Jump up and down. You know, if it's not going to disturb too many people, give out a shout. Again, we're in a field where it is kinesthetic. It's all part of communicating with your subconscious and opening up this communication channel. And you know what? Happiness is just reverberates through the whole body in wonderful ways. It's healthy. It's all those good things. What happens when you get a miss? You're learning from your hits, but you also want to learn from your misses and passes. Yeah, you can complete understanding, et cetera, intellectually. You can try to do it intellectually, but you know what? This is something where the key learning is going to come from inside yourself. You can listen to people like me, and we'll go on, and you'll get one level of learning from that, yes. But very quickly, you get to the point where you need to go inside yourself to learn and to continue to get better and better. And yes, interacting with other people, and yes, reading, but even then, the way you learn is by seeing what resonates, the ideas that resonate for you. See, that's looking inside, giving yourself credit and maybe even the responsibility for picking up what will help you. And that is most present and most easily to do with the misses and the passes, because that's when you're really looking maybe even a bit harder to improve yourself. And with that, you should have this also feeling really good that you're involved in this process, which you can expect, should expect, will be great for the long term. And intend that everything you're doing to help you for the long term, and expect it to improve yourself for the long term, basically forever. This communication channel doesn't have any limits. The only limits are the ones you put on it yourself. So this goes on forever. And this is what you're basically doing. You're learning about yourself. And mostly be happy. Feel good. So that's maybe the approach in terms of misses. Okay, I'm done. I thank you. Questions, comments? I'm really pleased on how this went. The sessions that you shared were really terrific. And I just hope there are a lot of other people who will look at this webinar afterwards, and I'm sure they'll get a lot out of it. Okay, other questions, comments? You're welcome, Glenn. As you know, I really do enjoy doing these, this sort of thing, and I couldn't do it if you guys weren't here, so I thank you. Okay, so it looks like we're indeed done. Again, thank you for joining, and you all have my email address, so if you're not already in the CARV group on our app discussion group list, just send me an email. Plus, I guess the other thing that I can just put out here is we have an app coming in November, and you can see that by going to our website. And you might want to join us there, because that's a fun place to rub elbows with our great speakers and each other and learn even more. Okay, you all take care now.